Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the City Planning Commission public hearing. And Madam Secretary, please begin.
Good morning. This is the City Planning Commission public meeting held in Spector Hall, 22 Reade Street. Today is Wednesday, February 24, 2016. As a courtesy during the proceedings, we ask that you please turn off all cell phones and beepers. All speakers should fill out a speaker's card at the desk outside of Spector Hall. In addition, we ask that those providing testimony please identify yourself, limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and speak clearly into the microphone. I will now call the roll. Chairman Weisbrod.
Here.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Here.
Commissioner Besser.
Here.
Commissioner Cantor.
Here.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Here.
Commissioner Delaus.
Here.
Commissioner Dweck.
Here.
Commissioner Edie.
Here.
Commissioner Efron.
Here.
Commissioner Knight.
Here.
Commissioner Levin.
Here.
Commissioner Marin.
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Here.
A quorum is present. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, February 3rd, 2016.
On the minutes, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The minutes are approved, Madam Secretary.
Scheduling. On calendar numbers 1 and 2, we have resolutions for adoption. Scheduling Wednesday, March 9th, 2016 for a public hearing to be held in Spector Hall, 22 Reade Street.
On the resolutions, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The resolutions are approved.
The next part of the calendar is the report section on page 3. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 3 through 7. Calendar number 3, CDs 5 and 16, C160035ZMK. Calendar number 4 has been laid over. Calendar number 5, C160037HUK. Calendar number 6, C16000642HDK. Calendar number 7, N160050ZRK. In the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments, amendment to an urban renewal plan and disposition of city-owned property pursuant to an urban renewal plan concerning the East New York rezoning. For favorable reports as modified on calendar numbers 3 and 7, and for favorable reports on calendar numbers 5 and 6. Chairman Weisbrod.
Good morning. Today, the City Planning Commission is voting on the East New York Community Plan. The first neighborhood plan developed as part of Housing New York, the city's ambitious and comprehensive plan to preserve and create 200,000 units of affordable housing to serve New Yorkers at a broad range of incomes. East New York represents a change in our approach to neighborhood planning, involving extensive community engagement in a ground-up and holistic fashion. It recognizes that zoning is but one tool in helping neighborhoods grow, in recognizing the needs of existing residents as well as new ones, and enhancing the quality of life for all. Not only are we aiming to promote affordable housing development through changes to zoning, but we are fostering more livable, thriving neighborhoods by making coordinated investments, working to spur economic development, and improving community resources. To do this, our staff here at City Planning has worked in close collaboration with other city agencies.
East New York's plan ain't affordable for me.
Please.
East New York's plan ain't affordable for me. 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 East New York's plan ain't affordable for me.
Thank you.
East New York's plan ain't affordable for me. East New York's plan ain't affordable for me. East New York's plan ain't affordable.
Thank you.
East New York votes no. 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 East New York votes no.
Thank you.
East New York votes no. East New York votes no. East New York votes no.
Thank you.
Votes no. East New York 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 votes no.
Thank you.
East New York votes no. 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 East New York votes no.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Vote no.
Thank you. Thank you.
Developer Green. Stop 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 Developer Green. No. East New York votes 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 no.
Okay.
Votes no.
Thank you.
Votes no.
Thank you very much.
East New York votes no. 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 East New York votes no.
Thank you very much.
Votes no. East New York votes no.
Thank you very much.
Votes no. East New York 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 votes no.
Okay. Thank you.
Votes no. East New York votes no.
Thank you. We will.
East New York votes no. East New York votes no. Our neighborhood. Our plan. Our neighborhood. Our plan. Our neighborhood. Our plan. Our neighborhood. Our plan. Our plan. Our neighborhood. Our plan. Our plan.
Okay, listen. If you want, excuse me, if you want to continue, you will be escorted out. If you want to continue, you will be escorted out. Please. Thank you.
Vote no! Greedy developers need to go!
Okay. So not only are we aiming to provide and promote affordable housing development through changes to zoning, but we are fostering more livable, thriving neighborhoods by making coordinated investments, working to spur economic development, and improving community resources. And to do this, our staff here at City Planning has worked in close collaboration with other city agencies, including HPD, SBS, EDC, DOT, School Construction Authority, and the Department of Parks and Recreation, as well as the Office of Management and Budget. The city has established a dedicated $1 billion neighborhood development fund to enable the city to support growth with public investments in parks, transportation, street and sidewalk beautification, and other improvements. The Neighborhood Development Fund, an entirely new concept in capital budgeting for the city, is designed to guarantee that commitments regarding public investments will be kept by budgeting the funds for them now. The East New York Community Plan is based on the extensive work by City Planning with the Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation that was funded by a Sustainable Community to East New York, a federal Department of Housing and Urban Development grant, as well as by a New York State Department of State Brownfield Opportunities Area grant. Hundreds of East New York, Cypress Hills, and Ocean Hill residents shared their insights and feedback in dozens of public meetings throughout this process to shape the future of their neighborhood. And I also want to recognize the thoughtful comments throughout the process that we've gotten from the Coalition for Community Advancement. That work identified key goals to create new housing, including housing affordable to families who currently live in the community, protect low-income tenants in the neighborhood, foster job opportunities and more diverse commercial options, support business growth along key corridors and in the industrial business zone, promote safer and more active streets, especially on Atlantic Avenue, and provide more recreational opportunities. Based on these objectives, our staff, together with our colleagues in many other agencies, developed a plan to facilitate these goals through new zoning, expanded programs and services, and capital investments. These strategies, while separate from the proposed land use actions before us today, are essential for achieving this comprehensive vision of a thriving and sustainable neighborhood. Over the next 15 years, it is estimated that the plan will facilitate more than 6,000 new apartments, over half of which will be affordable. East New York will also be the first application of the city's proposed mandatory inclusionary housing program, now before the City Council for approval, which would require that a minimum amount of new housing created must be permanently affordable, a bulwark against future potential increases in housing costs and a vehicle to ensuring neighborhood economic diversity. We know that many households in East New York have incomes that are even lower than the affordability levels we can require through zoning. Accordingly, our partner in this endeavor, HPD, has committed to finance 1,200 units of affordable housing in the first 2 years after the plan is adopted. A significant portion of these will reach families with very low and extremely low household incomes, and HPD has pledged that any project it subsidizes in East New York will be 100% affordable. We are also well aware of the displacement pressures residents of the greater East New York community currently face. Today's action, I believe, will help ease that pressure over time by creating more affordable housing. But aware of the broader pressures that neighborhood growth can bring, the city is providing free legal services to any low-income tenant experiencing illegal harassment or eviction, and also assisting low-income homeowners faced with foreclosure. In addition, HPD is continuing to work to preserve existing affordable housing and provide assistance to local homeowners through new and expanded financing programs. Today's action will create economic opportunity as well. We project a net increase of an estimated 3,700 jobs and more than 885,000 square feet of additional commercial space in the area, much of it for new retail and services long requested by the community. To ensure that East New York residents benefit, the city's newly expanded Hire NYC program requires that any city contract over $1 million and any project receiving $2 million or more in HPD subsidy post open positions with the Workforce One system, making local career opportunities available to East New York residents. SBS is going to be opening a new Workforce One Career Center in East New York, Brownsville, which will better connect residents to these and other career opportunities. Additionally, SBS has launched an East New York focused training course and will pursue other initiatives to help local owners strategically grow their businesses and adapt to changes in the market. New York EDC, New York City's Economic Development Corporation, is strengthening the capacity of the industrial business zone by conducting a study to identify opportunities to make the IBZ a better connected and more thriving center for jobs. EDC will improve a city-owned industrial building to allow it to better meet the needs of current and future commercial tenants and bring high-speed broadband to the area, a critical piece of infrastructure to support business growth. We are locking in infrastructure commitments upfront to help meet neighborhood needs today and in the future through the mechanism of the new Neighborhood Development Fund, but also creating a new 1,000-seat school in District 19. The new school is expected to be on a portion of the Dinsmore Chestnut Urban Renewal Site, which will also contain new affordable housing with commercial and community facilities. DOT will redevelop Atlantic Avenue, the central spine of the neighborhood, with a raised planted median, safer crosswalks, and new sidewalks complete with benches, bike racks, and more than 100 new street trees. This project will advance Vision Zero for pedestrian safety, a genuine issue on this corridor, and Atlantic Avenue has also been an unforgiving barrier between the north and south sides of East New York, so the improvements along Atlantic Avenue will also help knit the neighborhood more closely together. The Parks Department will not only enhance existing open space to create new recreational opportunities, but will transform a 1-acre underused asphalt area at City Line Park into a new green space. The Department of Cultural Affairs is working with local cultural organizations in East New York to enhance their capacity to better serve the community. To achieve the goals of the East New York Community Plan, we are mapping residential and commercial districts, zoning districts, that will promote mixed-use development along key corridors such as Atlantic Avenue. Permanent affordable housing will be required for new development in these districts. Retail or community facility uses would be required at the ground floor along key corridors to create active streetscapes and strengthen the retail environment. The existing low-density character along side streets typified by row houses and duplexes will be maintained and enhanced with contextual residential zoning districts. Industrial as well as residential and commercial uses will be allowed in areas that are currently home to such a mix of uses, including Liberty Avenue, as well as parts of Ocean Hill and Atlantic Avenue. The sum of these actions, commitments, and public investments will support a more vibrant, inclusive neighborhood with a wide variety of housing options for current and future residents, local and regional commercial uses, job opportunities, attractive streets, and higher quality schools, parks, and other community resources. And I know as this application goes to the City Council, the elected representatives from the East New York community will continue their strong advocacy for additional measures that would further complement the actions before us today. Before we vote, I want to thank a number of people without whose tireless work we would not be at this important milestone today. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge Corin Manning, the project manager, along with Corenza Wood and Jonathan Keller for their work on this groundbreaking plan. Winston Van Engel, director of our Brooklyn office, who led the Sustainable Community Study and has been a key part of our neighborhood planning efforts in East New York, and an advocate for the neighborhood over the course of his more than 25-year career at city planning. Our amazing executive director, Poonama Kapoor, under whose direction and former life as head of our Brooklyn office, the work in East New York began engaging with East New York residents to identify challenges and opportunities as part of the Sustainable Community Study. Bob DeBruskin and Diane McCarthy, who managed a very complex environmental review of these actions, and many others in our Environmental Review Division. Danny Fuchs and our Capital Planning Division, who has worked with agencies to develop a capital strategy, a wholly new approach to our planning efforts that responds to the needs of the neighborhood. Howard Slatkin, who helped lead the citywide Sustainable Community Studies, which provided a foundation for this plan and provided policy guidance on a host of matters. Takia Jordan, who coordinates our neighborhood studies across all 5 boroughs, and Danielle DeCerbo, our secret weapon and director of intergovernmental relations. The executive office and DCP staff who have been instrumental in this high level of intra and interagency coordination, our zoning, our HEIP, our urban design, our councils division, and other divisions help shape many of the strategies included in this plan, and of course our land use review and technical review divisions who help manage the technical aspects of this application. And it should be noted that nearly every member and recent alumni of the Brooklyn office has played a role in the development of this project, contributing in countless ways. And finally, I want to recognize and thank our colleagues in the city, the various agencies I've mentioned, school construction, parks, transportation, small business services, economic development corporation, Office of Management and Budget, and especially our very close working partner, HPD, and its awesome Commissioner, Vicki Bean. I enthusiastically vote aye. Thank you.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Well, I would join the chair in saluting city planning staff, led of course by the chair and the executive director and Winston Von Engel and Corin Manning and all of the people whose names were mentioned. I think this is a multi-agency approach, a comprehensive approach that goes well beyond amending the zoning code in this instance. I think the commission and certainly the department has listened carefully to the plans put forth by the East New York Community Plan, as well as the Coalition for Community Advancement. This is a community with a lot of needs, and I think this plan and the proposal before us goes a long way in addressing those needs. I vote yes.
Commissioner Besser?
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor?
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo?
Yes.
Commissioner De La Use?
First, I want to thank all the community residents and leaders that came out for the East New York hearing last month. Your thoughtful input and response to the DEIS is greatly appreciated, as is all the staff time that DCP, HPD, SBS, EDC, DOT, Parks, and I'm sure I missed a few other agencies in there, have put into this plan. New York City is facing a significant challenge. We're expecting an additional 800,000 residents over the next several decades. There are not enough housing units for these new residents, further exacerbating more than a 70-year affordable housing crisis. Though Mayor de Blasio has laid out a bold plan to preserve and create 200,000 units, and this first of 15 neighborhood rezonings is meant to address the gap between supply and demand, we must preserve and create the right supply to meet existing demand. An equal amount of emphasis must be placed on ensuring that existing residents in neighborhoods like East New York and Cypress Hills can benefit from the anticipated growth. This plan falls short of achieving inclusive growth despite the administration's significant efforts. Anti-displacement provisions cannot be a second thought as part of these rezonings, and they must be tailored to the neighborhoods like East New York and Cypress Hills, where there are so many unregulated yet affordable housing options that currently exist. Affordable housing levels matter. We must build and preserve units at deep levels of affordability. We must create real open space and the appropriate number of school seats. That matters. Eliminating the MX zone on Atlantic Avenue that currently exists in the plan matters. So many of the goals in this and other rezonings can only be achieved as a result of significant investment in infrastructure and services and coordination among government agencies. The administration has made a number of important commitments to the community with regard to these services and coordination that need to be properly memorialized so there's accountability and transparency. While I don't doubt the intentions of this administration, too many promises to communities have been broken in the past, and that leads to cynicism, anger, and antipathy that undermines our democracy and ultimately the administration's goals. Finally, there are a number of positive things about this proposal, including FIP's plan for the Chloe food site, which I'm sure they'll be engaging more thoroughly with the community about in the future, and the potential for the Dismore Chestnut site to help realize a number of community needs. I also believe that bringing Arlington Village into a mandatory inclusion housing framework makes sense. I know it is a bitter pill for the community to swallow, given the history of this site, but it makes sense given where we're at this moment in time today. The Atlantic Avenue safety improvements are long overdue, and the $1 billion Neighborhood Development Fund demonstrates good faith, but it isn't sufficient for the 15 neighborhoods' needs. Given that this proposed rezoning doesn't yet strike the right balance to achieve its bold vision or yet include enough of the community's vision, I must vote no and hope that the City Council is able to modify and strike the right balance.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Efron?
Yes, I also want to commend the agencies for their interagency cooperation, but also their intra-agency depth of creativity, particularly HPD, in doing truly comprehensive planning for a neighborhood, a great neighborhood. And I hope as this goes to City Council, the state agencies and the MTA will also marshal their resources to leverage the great planning that's been done to give this neighborhood all of the assets it deserves and to deepen its strength as it goes. I vote yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Favorable reports as modified have been adopted on calendar numbers 3 and 7, and favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 5 and 6.
Shame on you! 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 East New York votes no!
East New York votes no.
East New York votes no!
East New York votes no.
East New York votes no!
East New York votes no.
East New York votes no!
East New York votes no.
East New York votes no!
East New York votes no.
East New York votes no!
Our community, our plan.
Our community, our plan!
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 Our community, our plan.
Our community, our
justice.
Our community, our plan.
There's no justice.
Our community,
There
our
is a
plan.
God, though, but you will hear them. No justice.
Minority, our plan.
Bribery, corruption.
East New York first, no. Our community, our plan. Our
Commissioned
community, our
by
plan.
God first before you commissioned by a mayor. There's no justice. Deceit, bribery, corruption. And you know it in your heart. We are people. You put sustainable housing when you build sustainable people. You gotta build people first. 4 years of denial in East New York. Now you put out a plan like this.
Okay.
Deceit, injustice.
Okay. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 8, CD 16, C150171, PQK, in the matter of an application for the acquisition of property concerning Friends of Crowns Heights 26 Child Care Center. For a favorable report on calendar number 8, Chairman Weisbrod,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Bessa. Commissioner Cantor. Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight. Commissioner Levin. Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 8. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 9 and 10. Calendar number 9, CD 15, N150342, ZRK. Calendar number 10, C150343, ZSK. In the matter of applications for an amendment of the zoning resolution and for the grant of a special permit concerning 3133-3135 Emmons Avenue for adoption on calendar numbers 9 and 10. Chairman Weisbrod.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Bessa. Commissioner Cantor. Commissioner, oh, sorry.
Comment upon the people who are here today, voice their interest. I think it was a good display of democracy. They were passionate, they were polite, they got their voices heard, although not the way they would like. But I do want to compliment them for the way they handled themselves.
And you vote yes.
Yes?
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight. Commissioner Levin. Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 9 and 10. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 11, CD6 N160111ZAK, in the matter of an application for the grant of an authorization concerning 435 Henry Street for adoption on calendar number 11. Chairman Weisbrod.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Bessa. Commissioner Cantor. Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight. Commissioner Levin. Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Calendar number 11 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar numbers 12, 13, and 14. Calendar number 12, CD2, N160099ZAR. Calendar number 13, N160098ZAR. Calendar number 14, N160100ZCR. In the matter of applications for the grant of authorizations and a certification concerning 181 Coverly Avenue for adoption on calendar numbers 12, 13, and 14. Chairman Weisbrod.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Bessa.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor. Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight. Commissioner Levin. Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Calendar numbers 12, 13, and 14 have been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 15, CD2, N160027ZAR, in the matter of an application for the grant of an authorization concerning Woodhaven and Merrick Avenues for adoption on calendar number 15. Vice Chairman Knuckles, Vice Chairman Weisbrod.
I'm thinking of abstaining, but I won't.
Chairman Weisbrod.
I'll vote yes. Now that
Vice
you've
Chairman
asked me.
Knuckles.
I too vote yes.
Commissioner Bessa.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor. Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight. Commissioner Levin. Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Calendar number 15 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 16, CD3 N160044 RCR, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 253 and 257 Crown Avenue for adoption on calendar number 16. Chairman Weisbrod,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Bessa.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantor.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Calendar number 16 has been adopted. The next part of the calendar is the public hearing section on page 12. Borough of the Bronx, calendar number 17, CD12 C160065ZMX. A public hearing in the matter of an application for an amendment of the zoning map concerning Woodlawn rezoning.
First speaker is Councilmember Andrew Cohen. Councilman, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. I'll be very brief. I see that you have a lot on the calendar and you have a busy calendar, but I really just wanted to come personally and express my gratitude to the City Planning Commission for taking up this matter, the gratitude of Community Board 12, the Woodlawn taxpayers, the Webster Avenue taxpayers. This is really something that has been really sought on the ground. I want to thank Carol Samuel at the Bronx office for hearing us and taking these concerns seriously. I do believe that these changes will really just help effectuate the overall zoning plan in Woodlawn, and I would really urge the commission to support this and vote yes. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Questions for Councilmember Cohen?
Okay.
Maybe next time you'll get a lot of questions.
I'm not shy when you guys come to me, so
Come back again, so
thank you very much.
and treat us as kindly when we get. Thank you, Councilmember. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter? If not, the hearing is closed. Thank you.
Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 18, CD1 N160173 PXM. A public hearing in the matter of a notice of intent to acquire office space for use of property located at 33 Whitehall Street.
First speaker, is it Alani Davis? Is that? Alana Davis. From the Department of Sanitation. Welcome, Ms. Davis.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Weisbrod and Vice Chair Knuckles and distinguished members of the City Planning Commission. My name is Alana Davis, and I am the Director of Real Estate for the Department of Sanitation. And I can tell you, it's a pleasure to be here to speak to you about office space as opposed to the relocation of a sanitation. With me today is Edmund Lee, Chief Information Officer at the Department of Sanitation, and Monica Matcheskovich. I hope I got it right.
Well, I'll have to do this next, so I hope you get it right.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, to request that you vote in favor of the acquisition by the city of 17,000 square feet of office space at 33 Whitehall Street in the borough of Manhattan for the use by our Bureau of Technology. The Bureau of Technology is DSNY's developer, provider, operational manager of technological systems required to ensure that essential sanitation services are provided to the city of New York. This includes the demanding administration of the sanitation management analysis and resource tracking system, better known as SMART, and data processing functions. BID currently occupies 4 of the 6 floors assigned to DSNY at 137 Center Street, and about 50% of the building's floors. As you know, 137 Center Street is being sold by the Economic Development Corps, and the immediate relocation of portions of it will facilitate the sale and as well not severely hamper DSNY's ability to provide technical services during the final move out of Center Street. The office space at 33 Whitehall Street is in move-in condition. We don't have to do any major renovations or repairs. It's equipped with the state-of-the-art data center easily adaptable for our needs. The location is in close proximity to other DSNY offices in Manhattan and accessible to public transportation. We would sincerely appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Questions? Ms. Levin.
Ms. Davis, I'm just curious, how did this particular space come to your attention? Did you look at other space in the neighborhood? It does sound like it's well-suited for your use, but I'm wondering about the sort of research that went into picking this location.
Well, we actually, we went through the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, of course, expressing the need to relocate because we have, the impending move. In addition to that, we're severely crowded at 137 Center Street. And DCAS showed us about 3 other locations. And when we saw 33 Whitehall Street, we were like, this is perfect. It's right near our 44 Beaver Street and 59 Maiden Lane offices. There's no issues with parking because obviously we have to have access to loading docks. And then we saw the data center and we're like, this is great.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Davis? Ms. Delos.
Hi, Ms. Davis, thanks for being here. So how long would the lease be for? And, maybe you have some information about how this building is equipped. Should there be any future floods or other things? Because it seems like because it's a data center, and I'm sure that's a critical service, how the building is protected against that, or how you all have taken precautions to ensure you can still be up and running?
Well, obviously during Hurricane Sandy, there was a lot of flooding in Lower Manhattan, and this particular building has been sort of retrofitted to provide flood protection measures, including backup generators, which I believe are located on the roof.
Okay, great.
The term of the lease will be approximately 18 months. We're hoping that this can turn into a long-term lease, but right now it's 18 months.
Can you talk a little bit more about what that hinges upon?
I think DCAS would be better equipped to answer that. And Jason Ortiz from DCAS will address that.
Thank you.
Okay.
We also have 2 of Ms. Davis's colleagues from the Department of Sanitation. If anyone has questions to them, otherwise I will call Jason Ortiz from DCAS. And I will avoid having to pronounce Ms. Mazakewicz. How do you pronounce that? Masakavich? Masakavich. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Ortiz.
Good morning.
From the Department of, from DCAS.
I just want to address Commissioner Levin's initial question regarding how we found the space. So DCAS is tasked with the responsibility to search for space for any city agency. We worked in tandem with Cushman & Wakefield, which is a broker representative in the city, and we found several spaces. 33 Whitehall was the space that met all of sanitation's needs. Okay.
And just to Ms. Delos' question before, from what Ms. Davis said, this is initially proposed as an 18-month lease. Upon what does a extension or renewal hinge?
So this lease is a sublease, and upon lease expiration, we would engage the ownership directly to extend. We've already been in initial discussions with ownership, and it is contingent on another tenant's option to take the space. And we will have that in sight in November.
Seems a little risky.
No, Ms. Ellis, go ahead.
So I'm assuming, despite the risk you just outlined, that you assume that you're a betting man and that you're betting that it's going to work out, because to have such a move for 18 months, it seems like it would not be, a good idea.
So typically, we would want to have a longer-term need in place. BIT really needed the space immediately. It was an immediate need. Ideally, this is a long-term need. If it isn't, we will consolidate them with the longer-term need for 137 as a whole.
So is there a significant fit-out costs?
There is none.
associated?
This is a turnkey, so sanitation just steps in. All of the office is already built with chairs, desks, and the server centers available.
Okay. Ms. Efron?
Thank you. Since we have you, I just have a question about the coordination between EDC's plans to sell the building where this unit is currently and the timing of the move. When you say that it's an immediate need, how much warning did DCAS have about relocating agencies, and how many agencies need to relocate in
I'm
square
actually
footage?
I'm not that familiar with that side of it. That's more of the sale portion. I do leasing, so I don't have all of the detail as to when all of the agencies were notified that they had to vacate. I know that the hard date for the sale is February 2018.
And just as out of curiosity, are you responsible for leasing space for any other agencies coming out of that building?
Yes.
How many?
The
How many square
NYPD.
feet?
So there are 2 agencies coming out of 137 Center Street in my portfolio besides sanitation.
Okay.
Mr. Cirillo?
So just to piece the calendar together, the impending sale is scheduled for February of 18. I'm assuming the city needs to deliver an empty building. And 18 months is this lease, which, if approved, what is the time frame to get the agency out and into 33 Whitehall? I guess I'm just laying on top of this the risk factor that you termed, Michelle, and the potential of not having this be a long-term, although it sounds like the perfect location, and hopefully it will be, that reality will be realized. But the fact that there's so much time between now and February of 18, and this is only 18 months, I just wonder why, and again, I'm not opposed to this, but why more time hasn't been permitted to pass, so the certainty issue that you're faced with at 33 Whitehall might actually reveal itself before there may potentially be 2 moves in a window of time where you still have the window to empty 137. So it's just a timing issue question, and I don't know if it's...
It's a concern. When we initially had this assignment to get bid out immediately out of the space, the concern was, is the need so great that they couldn't wait for the longer-term need as a whole to have 1 relocation instead of potentially 2? And the decision was made that the need is that great that we needed to move them out immediately because of the overcrowding and their inoperable office space. It's just too crowded. So we had to find an immediate need. 33 Whitehall was available, and the goal is that all agencies will be out of 137 Center Street by August or September of 2017. So if there is a long-term relocation, again, they will have a site to move to.
By then?
By August or September of 2017.
By then, okay. Well, I hope that all works out, because it's certainly, as somebody who has experienced this, moving in, as you know, Mr. Chairman, yourself, in recent years, moving an agency, even one division of an agency, is a huge undertaking for the operation of the agency. So I just hope the way it's envisioned to happen in the perfect world is how we experience this.
It's not something you'd like to do twice.
No, exactly.
We don't want to do it once, but DCAS will be able to do it twice if necessary.
Yes.
Ms. Levin?
I appreciate that Our responsibility is, really doesn't reach to the financial terms of an arrangement. We're about, is this a good place to locate offices? But I am curious, since you obviously have some exposure to the downtown financial district office market, when the city of New York goes out looking for office space in this neighborhood, what constraints are there on pricing, and how competitive is the city as a tenant? Do you find yourself running into financial market challenges that are hard for the city to accommodate, or are you spending our money with abandon?
Well, we're certainly not doing that. We are definitely constrained by the market. The market is going to drive our ability to retain space. So if the market in downtown Manhattan is $80 a square foot, for example, that's the market. And either city agencies can pay that, or they have to find alternative locations. So it's really, the city pays a market rent. We try to leverage our size and influence to negotiate those rents down as much as possible. But we are subject to the same market conditions as the private market.
Do you find yourself sometimes paying premiums because of the pressures that you're under?
It can be for a very unique space with a very specific need. We may need to pay a premium to retain that space, and that's on a case-by-case basis. In general, the city works very hard to look out for the taxpayer money, but there are some cases where we have to pay a premium because our needs are so specific.
Okay. And is this particular application that kind of a situation, or are you right about at market?
This is below market because it's a sublease. We're actually paying less than if it were a direct deal. But this was also a very immediate need for sanitation. So it was a priority to find a space as quickly as possible. And this just so happened to meet every requirement.
Thank you.
Ms. Ortiz and then Ms. Zerna.
So have you approached the owner with how responsive are they potentially to continuing the lease after it's, after the lease term?
We've already engaged the owner in this conversation, and they're very open to extending long-term. It is all contingent on the other tenant in the building, if they are choosing to exercise their option. At this time, they haven't indicated whether they'd like to or not. They have until November to make that decision.
Okay, and so you mentioned you're paying less than market rate because it's you're a sub. I presume you're going to be in a challenging situation at the end of 18 months because you'll want to stay and you'll need to be paying market rate and potentially will pay a premium to remain because you want to avoid a move. I mean, is that?
Well, I think in all likelihood, we will pay less than market rate because we are going to be an existing tenant that will not require any additional capital to build out the space or any investment from ownership. So a typical new tenant coming into a space will expect months of free rent, right, TI, and sanitation will not have that requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Knuckles.
Mr. Ortiz, the tenant with the option to take the space that you want to occupy, is that, I assume that's not a city agency?
It is not a city agency.
This is a private tenant?
Correct.
And aside from sanitation, are there other prospective city agencies that may be looking at this location in the future?
I am not aware of any other city agencies interested in this location.
But there are city agencies there now?
In this building?
In this building?
I do not believe there are any city agencies in 33 Whitehall. Sanitation would be the first.
This would be the first.
And this was a little bit of a concern for the landlord because they didn't want a lot of movement into and out of the building, but this is an office location, so that's it's not a concern.
Is this other tenant looking, is it the only, is the space that you plan to acquire the exact same footprint as the other tenant with the option?
So the tenant that has the option is the same space. It
Same
would be the
space.
17,000 square foot space
Right, okay,
that sanitation is asking to get approval for.
thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Cantor?
Thank you. We've been talking a lot about what's going to happen. I'm curious, you've used the word immediate need on numerous occasions. When did this immediate need become apparent?
I've started with DCAS in June, so it became apparent within the next couple of months for me, and I then took action to assist sanitation and retaining space.
I guess where I'm going is what creates the impetus to go?
Okay, so the process, the agency will submit a needs request to DCAS. DCAS will then take that needs request and go to OMB, which is our financial oversight board, and they will approve the initial need or not. This need was approved. We can then move forward as DCAS to provide our service and retaining space.
So basically, there's an applicant and two people, or two organizations reviewing the application before you go forward.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Ortiz? Thank you very much, Mr. Ortiz.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you with us. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter? If not, the hearing is closed.
Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 19, CD1, N160172, PXM. A public hearing in the matter of a notice of intent to acquire office space for use of property located at 233 Broadway.
First speaker is Dale Lazarson, well known to us all. Welcome back.
Thank you, Sarah, for the boards. Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chairman, Commissioners. I will, for Mr. Cantor, be as passionate as possible this morning. And I will give a little nod to a previous question. We wish that the Office of Management and Budget would allow us to be relatively free with the city's money. That is not the case. I am Dale Lazarson with DCAS Asset Management Leasing, and I am here to support the application in front of you for the acquisition of office space located at 233 Broadway, which is the iconic and landmark building, the Woolworth Building, which you can see right here. This site will be used for the tort division, for growth of the tort division for the city's law department. As heard on Monday, the Manhattan office for the division of tort, if you will, is located at 52 Duane Street, which is a leased property. They have about 19,000 square feet. However, that particular space is at capacity and cannot accept any kind of expansion growth. The proposed space at the Woolworth Building at 233 Broadway will be the entire fifth floor, which consists of approximately 32,000, give or take, square feet, rentable square feet. It is currently vacant, and it is ready to be improved per the city's required plan, which will reflect an accommodation of approximately 95 seats, give or take, including certain specialty areas that are very common with law firm practices, which create for a little less efficiency than we would like, but things like a very large file bank area, two very large conference rooms for meeting space, which require multiple entrances and exits, several smaller, more intimate conference rooms for one-on-one interviews, etc. The proposed acquisition is for a lease of 15 years with some renewal options. 233 Broadway itself, as I mentioned, is a landmark building, iconic landmark building. It's 55 stories and very exciting. The top of the building, if you look up now, you're probably aware, floors 30 through 54 are being converted for condominium use, and that's what the netting is going on there. The building with its renovation for that particular new use will have a separate entrance for those condominiums. So the building is situated in the downtown office market, which is approximately 85 to 86 million square feet. To answer some questions, the vacancy rate in downtown is less than 10%, maybe hovering right around 10%, but less than as of today. The particular building is actually in the submarket that we call City Hall. This has 13 million square feet of office space in it, and the city is a pretty big tenant in this area. Lastly, the building, as you are probably aware, is located in the special Lower Manhattan district. So the proposed use for the city's office space is consistent with that, in that it's, the district is meant to encourage the vitality of both commercial and residential growth. So we will be bringing a few new jobs to the area. Can I answer any questions for you?
Questions for Ms. Lazarson. Ms. Efron.
Hi, Ms. Lazarson. Thank you for the explanation. Since you mentioned in your opening that you wish you had the ability to spend freely, it does beg the question, based on Commissioner Levin's description, is this lease below market, at market, or above market?
So I would say that this is a fair and equitable lease for the downtown area and the financial district, City Hall area. I would say it's right about hovering at market. As I mentioned, that goes to the vacancy rate, supply demand.
I just didn't hear the answer. Could you repeat that?
I would say that this particular transaction is hovering round about market. Yeah, it's hovering just about market for this particular area, for the City Hall area, combined with the financial district area, downtown. Yeah, we're seeing similar rates peppered throughout different buildings. Yeah, this is a landmark building, however, and the owner has a posture about its pro forma, so it may be a coin or two more than what we would desire at this point in time, but there are other influences in site searching.
I guess, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was
No, go
probably
ahead.
heading in the same direction, but there is a public responsibility.
Yes.
Each of us feels very sincerely on this commission, and the Woolworth building is an iconic building that we're all aware, as you said, is building condos on top. And if you can't tell us that it is a market rate or below lease, I think some of us will not sleep well tonight, feeling that we've been safeguarding the responsibility of the city. Clearly, the rent is outside of the jurisdiction of this commission, but what would be the special circumstances that would bring this to be a, as you say, I actually don't even know how you described it, but the landlord's high rent?
Yeah, yes, and it's not necessarily high rent. So let me go on record saying that this is a fair and equitable deal. It is hovering at just about market for this immediate area, combined with the financial area based on the vacancy rate, so for supply demand. So, and I do want to say, even if OMB gave us the right to spend money freely, we certainly would not do so, because we too have a vested interest in a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers. So the special circumstances, site searching, certainly we want to do below market deals. If we do market deals, there needs to be consideration for that. Supply demand, the need for the law department space must be in proximity to one of its primary clients, which is the police department at 1 PP. Also, the proximity for its current location at Duane Street and its headquarter location at 100 Church is very helpful in an efficient operation. So again, those are nuances to say, if we pay attention to those operational efficiency factors, we narrow the net that we cast when we site search, and then we look at availability. It's not the only building that we looked at, that's for sure, but it is one that serves the purpose very well.
Mr. Cantor, then Ms. Ortiz.
Oh, no, Ms. Ortiz.
What?
Ms. Ortiz.
Ms. Ortiz? I defer. Ms. Ortiz?
Thank you. Just for clarification, you mentioned a 10% vacancy rate, and then you referenced supply and demand. Is 10% in your, mind, a tight market?
It is relatively tight, yeah.
Okay.
It's relatively tight. It's also interesting because while the downtown market is classified as 85, 90 million square feet, and the City Hall market at about 13 million square feet. It's tricky for efficiencies when we go to place an agency like the law department. We want the most efficient space we can get, but there's a lot of small pocket space as opposed to large floor plates, right? So that, again, further cast a little bit of a narrow search for us. But, yeah, something hovering, in the single digits is incredibly aggressive. So something hovering around 10%, it's a very healthy economy, to say the least.
Okay, so not as tight as you've seen it in the past?
Oh, no, I think in the past couple of years, it was a little bit lower, maybe 8%, 6%, but, this is tight. I should offer, it's not unusual to hear the statement made of downtown New York right now being the hottest market in the country. Now, that's a combination of both retail and office space.
But that's nothing, I mean, the downtown market compared to, say, Midtown South is a much higher vacancy rate, and frankly, I know the downtown market pretty well. The downtown market is not quite as robust as it had been 2 years ago, and in fact, vacancy rates are edging upwards, not downwards.
That was the point that I just made a couple of years ago. We were looking a little more single digits, but it's still healthy. It's still healthy.
So I don't quite understand, I mean, I appreciate the space, the locational needs of the law department, given the need for proximity to one police plaza particularly, but why the Woolworth building is probably the most iconic and highest rent Class B plus commercial building in Lower Manhattan.
I can't actually make a statement that it would be the highest rent, but yes, it is not.
Class B or B plus building.
I can't make a statement toward that. What I can say, it is on the higher side. We are seeing, in downtown, rents a couple of dollars less than this. But again, many other factors will go into it. I think that if we believed that we were paying a premium, we would not have stopped here with our search.
And could you also, you talked a little bit about the specialized need of law firms, but at 350 square feet per employee compared to an average 180 feet per employee in typical office space today, that's double. That's considerably more than I think law firms, Class A law firms, are seeing per employee. And how did you arrive at 32,000 square feet for 90 employees?
So utilization is a tricky factor, and certainly you have experience with law firms. I think utilization is great for all corporations, including the city, as a benchmark standard. I think 180 is very aggressive, and that the days of the 180 may be gone. We're hovering more on a national standard for office space, probably anywhere between 225, 250 per person. It could be lower, and it could also swing up for law firms. But, also perfect utilization would require relatively column-free, large floor plates for office space. Many of the buildings in downtown Manhattan do not offer this because we know the architectural integrity of many of these buildings. There's columns, there's large setbacks, etc. This particular building has an interesting architectural feature of a setback. It also has multiple elevator banks. So the loss factor is a little bit greater than what we would typically prefer for a building, for city office use. So we lose a little bit of efficiency there, the loss factor itself, architectural integrity issues. Also, again, for law firms, unlike other back office operations where you have a floor peppered primarily with open workstation space and amenity rooms, due to matters of privacy, law firms often have a higher degree of private office space not generous by any means, but nevertheless, private office space, as well as private conferencing rooms. This particular space will be laid out with two very large conference meeting rooms. Some efficiency is lost there, again, because the larger they get, the more capacity. We have assembly exiting issues. So for that, architecturally, we lose a little bit of space. And then also, I think 5 or 6 more intimate conference rooms for the one-on-one interviews. So the nature of the operation itself doesn't provide for the most efficient layout for the utilization standard. It swings up a little bit. There are other types of operations that swing down, much more so. IT technology, for example, can swing down, particularly if there are workforce mobility programs. But that's not the case. This is in-office work to be done. And a member of the law department is here, Ken Majerus, to speak toward the operations going on for torts.
Okay.
And one other thing on the 300 square feet, give or take, which doesn't necessarily help my point, but it is what it is. The actual need, if we translated the square footage to the occupancy head count and amenities, the actual need will float somewhere around 30,000 square feet, give or take, when we cast a search into the market and we look for ideal space. Barring it being found and/or built to suit, we sometimes have to select space that is as close to our requirement as needed, if a space cannot be demised or a landlord is unwilling to separately demise it.
Mr. Cantor.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
You said earlier that you're taking the space as is. Is the current tenant, what kind of a business is the current tenant?
Okay, thank you. I think the previous testimony at 33 Whitehall is as is. This space is not as is. Yes, we are getting the space as is, but it happens to be actually raw space. There is no existing tenant. It is vacant space, and it is ready to be improved per city standards. We will be doing a build-out of it.
You will be doing a
Yes, we
build-out,
will.
which includes upgrading the floor system for the moving files, et cetera.
Yes, in fact, the actual specifics of the operational improvements, like a high-density file bank you may be referring to, I am not currently involved, and I don't have those specifics. I can find out for you. But in terms of building out the space to city standards, so per square foot, the size of private offices, for example, the size of conference rooms, a pantry area, a necessary land room, city standards.
And when you factor in all of those numbers, it still makes sense for an 18-month deal.
That is the prior, that's the prior location, 33 Whitehall for the Department of Sanitation. This is 233 Broadway for the law department.
Excuse me, wrong.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Next question, who's responsible, or is the city at all responsible for cleaning and maintenance?
So this particular deal, with this deal, the landlord will take care of the janitorial cleaning for not only the building, but for also our space.
Okay,
Yes.
but they will be responsible for the lobbies and the other areas that are landmarked.
Yes, this is a multi-tenant building, and the landlord is responsible for all common areas, and I would offer that because it is landmarked, more so than ever before.
Ms. Iverson, the rest of the main part of the torts division is on Duane Street, is that correct?
50, is it 52, is that the 52 Duane Street, yes.
And
That's the Manhattan borough, and each borough has a tort group.
And this 90-unit or 90-person unit would be an extension of the Manhattan Bureau, or?
That's correct. This is additional growth. Yes, this is additional growth.
How many employees are in the Duane Street location, and how big is that location? Do you know?
So the location itself is about 18 midway, so between 18 and 19,000 square feet. The number of employees currently seated there, I'm going to let Mr. Majerus with the law department answer that question.
Any other questions for Ms. Lazarson? Ms. Efron?
Sorry for a second crack at this, but with a new division, what is the process for determining the space needs?
So that's a great question, and it is part of the leasing process, so thank you for asking. I'll articulate this as best as I can. When an agency has a new need, whether it is for growth of an existing need or just de novo new need, as a result of operations, we're seeing that, for example, in the mayor's office, the contracts and new functions. DCAS meets with the agency to go through. So it's not a one-on-one, but effectively a one-on-one session, an interview session about what it is they do operationally, what their headcount is, how the functions operate, what kind of space the employees need. We take all of that information, and this is our design and project management group, so it's known as DCAS DNPM. They do what we call programming. They put all of that into their blender and into a city standard template to determine how the particular requested need actually results in physical space required. So it's a check and balance system. You can say that you need 100,000 square feet, but based on your head count and based on the operations and efficiencies, our blender will spit out something that says this is what you really need. And we then partner with the Office of Management and Budget to seek their approval for that. And then we hit the market to cast a net for the square footage required and the space that would support the operation. It goes through a forensic analysis, if you will, of their need into city standards. It keeps it a little less subjective.
If the existing space at Duane Street is 18,000 square feet, this is 32,000 square feet, why didn't DCAS and the law department, maybe this is a question for Mr. Majerus, it seems to me to break up a division and have two separate offices for the Manhattan Torts Division is just operationally not terribly efficient. And why didn't you and the law department look to consolidate in a bigger space that probably on a square foot basis would be a lot less expensive and a lot more efficient?
It's a great question. So office space, the economies of scale for both square footage and office efficiencies. You're absolutely correct. That makes a lot of sense. Strategically, however, we have a commitment at 52 Duane Street. This is growth that, again, Mr. Majerus will discuss, isn't expected to go away in the near future. So we are comfortable to take on additional space to meet the law department's growing need without causing a disposition of space for the city where we have a commitment.
Well, how long is that commitment at 52 Duane Street? Is that a lease?
Yes, it is.
Private space?
It is a private space, yes. And the commitment has a near-term expiration, but dialogue for its extension is well underway.
But
Then there's also one other thing. So, well, then why didn't we time it perfectly? That's a natural question. There's also another thing, that to lift the whole law department and do a mass consolidation.
well, we're not talking about the whole law department.
no.
We're talking about a
Tort.
division
Yeah.
of the Manhattan Tort. We're talking about one borough's division of the law department for torts only.
So I think a number of things go into that decision. The long-term planning strategy, Mr. Majerus may be able to speak a little bit toward it. I can certainly get back to you on the strategy from the team that was involved initially on this site. It's a great question, but I do believe that many influences come to be, including the cost of relocating a division when this is only simply an expansion of it. So to relocate the whole part and simply to accommodate may be a little tricky from a financial perspective, a capital commitment perspective. I can get back to you on specifics as to the strategy.
Thank you. Ms. Levin.
As Ms. Lazarson, you described the planning process that your agency goes through as a blender, and I'm curious, which sounds like probably an apt description of the process, what did the blender say about the number of square feet required before you went out in the market?
Yeah, so I alluded to that earlier. Yeah, so this will be a requirement that's somewhere around 30,000 square feet, maybe as low as 27 to 30,000 square feet. That's what we spit out.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we cast our net and we see what does the market show, what does it have. Another thing also is rentable, as you're all aware. Rentable is very different than usable, and that goes to the loss factor I was talking about.
What is the loss factor that really
Ms. Ortiz.
So what's the amount of square footage at 52 Duane right now? How much did
Yeah,
you
that's,
say?
I don't have the actual number. I think it's somewhere between 18 and 19,000 square feet. It's in the mids. It's, call it 18,500 to be conservative. It's somewhere right around there.
Okay, so combined, if you were to look to combine, you'd be looking for about 50,000 square feet? 45,
Probably a
50?
little bit less. You know, we would certainly do a search for a little bit less, maybe somewhere around 47, 48. Could be as low as 45 if we were to find a low-rise, mid-rise building with no columns and large floor plates of efficiency, but the likelihood of securing it would be nil, given it would be leased immediately.
And what is the market and supply, I guess, for 45,000 square feet?
There are some large floor plates available, large square footage, not large floor plates, excuse me, large square footage blocks available. But the location of them in downtown presents a challenge for this specific need. So for example, I recently testified about the opportunities at 375 Pearl. And as you can now begin to look through the building as the windows are going in, you can see that there's a lot of square footage there. But the location of it is not entirely conducive to this particular operations need. Yes, it's close to 1 PP, a primary client, but it presents a little bit of a challenge for the general public that may be coming and going. Given the transportation there, it gets a little tricky. It's a little further away from the torts, and then, of course, further away from the law department's headquarters at church. So,
But I'm suggesting that, you know, along the lines of Commissioner Weisbrod, that if there were an opportunity to allow for the tort division to remain consolidated, you know, that might be preferable.
Right, so once again, it goes to, if we were in the market to consolidate and look for approximately 45,000 square feet, based on supply of 45,000 square feet, right? Is that available in some locations? But again, are those locations conducive?
And you're saying that the distance
Well,
issue,
here,
I mean.
So consolidation, it's a very good question. It's an interesting observation. The consolidation to someplace like 375 Pearl, which is very close to 1 PP, may not be that conducive to how far they would have to toss a coin to get to 100 Church Street. But also 375 Pearl, from a back office perspective, is a fantastic location. From an office perspective where you have the public coming and going, and this particular operation will see the public. That's what the interview rooms are for, et cetera, given what's going on there. It gets a little tricky. 375 Pearl is a great opportunity for the city for certain needs, but the access to the building for the general public may be a little tough.
But surely that's not the only location available, you're saying?
No, it's not. There are a few others, but we take opportunities for other business terms when we negotiate with landlords, other business terms that may not be agreeable to us, eliminates properties. I mean, we're confident. We do very thorough searches based on the criteria of the operational need, the square footage, supply, demand, and other things. Owners' willingness to do leases with city. I think you heard from my colleague, Jason Ortiz, that the owner of 333 Whitehall, they've never done business with the city before, and they're willing to. That's not always the case right now, particularly in a market that has less than 10% vacancy. There's a lot of private sector competition. And some owners just simply don't want to do business with the city at this point.
It's vacant space.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is vacant space.
I'm sorry.
It's a good observation. It is vacant space, and but that doesn't necessarily mean that a private owner wants to fill its vacant space with the city.
Ms. Levin?
Well, I was just going to observe that in terms of ease of access, the Woolworth building is probably the hardest building to get into if you're coming for a visit. They have incredibly tight security. And so I'd really challenge your observation that this is well chosen for ease of access to the public, because the public can't get in.
I'm sorry, let me clarify. When I was saying ease of access, I meant by transportation and easily found. Yes. And to the security of the Woolworth building, not unlike many buildings. In fact, the city planning's new offices at 120 Broadway has a security system. Yeah. I'm not going to say that it's difficult at 120 Broadway. What it is very prudent. You know, on very busy days, is it efficient? It's a little more challenging. But the same thing with 233 Broadway. The building has base building security. There's a security desk in the corner. You can freely come and go, but you must stop at that desk and visitors check in and out. Not dissimilar than many other commercial buildings.
Any other questions to Ms. Lasserson? Thank you, Ms. Lasserson.
All right, thank you.
I would like to hear from Ken Majerus from the Law Department.
Good morning, Commissioner. Commissioners. My name is Ken Majuris. I'm the Deputy Chief of Administration at the Law Department. And I will answer all your questions as best I can.
I'll start. So, the tort division currently is at 52 Duane Street, is that correct?
Should clarify that. Our headquarters for the tort division is at 100 Church Street. So that's where all the division managers are. That's where all the central administration is. Each borough has its own office, and those are generally people that are handling trials at the court. So we try to get those offices located as close to the court as we can.
So the trial part of the tort division for Manhattan is at 52 Duane Street?
Yes.
And how many, from Ms. Lazerson's testimony to us, that's about 18,000 square feet, but she didn't know how many employees were there.
It hovers between 50 to 55. We squeeze people in as we need them and as there's a need for them.
So where are the other, the 90 plus, 90 additional employees that are scheduled to go to the Woolworth 233 Broadway? Are they scattered around now? Are they hired yet, or what's the situation?
Some of them are not hired. So there are 40 people, 30 attorneys, 10 support staff, who are currently hired, and they are in every nook and cranny we have at 100 Church Street. So they're spread between the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth floors. So managing that is extremely difficult for anybody. They're new people. It's hard to get them trained, hard to keep following up with them on cases. So we're trying to resolve that problem. The next 57 people are in the process of being hired. Many will come in with the new class that comes in September, so they will have very little legal experience at all. They'll need substantial training. We have nowhere to put them at the moment. What we will be doing is that 59 people will be leaving 100 Church Street and going up to 1775 Grand Concourse, an office that we saw you about 2 years ago. So they'll be moving up there, which will free up nooks and crannies for the next 57 people. Very, very difficult for us to manage that way. So we are trying to look to how to consolidate them, specific program groups, and get them into units.
So why, I mean, given that, which makes total sense, why, and the fact that your lease at 52 Duane Street apparently is expiring shortly.
2016, yes.
What, this year?
This year?
This year.
So why aren't you consolidating the tort division from Manhattan in one place instead of continuing the very problem that you're seeking to alleviate?
Well, the commissioner won't let the tort division go, so the managers have to be at 100 Church Street. All of our divisions, the management for each division is at 100 Church, and it's been that way all the years.
Right, but you have some of Manhattan at 52 Duane, and now you're going to have yet a third location.
Yes.
Why shouldn't they all be consolidated? Well, at least the Manhattan Tort Division minus the managers that have to be at 100 Church Street.
I don't know, that decision is probably part of, we don't get new space and can't even ask for new space until we get new staff. These staff that we are getting at this point are not really part of that program of the Manhattan Borough Unit. They're part of these other programs which handle cases citywide. So the proximity to the courts here at Church, down here at the courts, is not so critical for them, as is access to public transportation, so that they can get to the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, wherever they have to go.
But you have access to public transportation to get to any place in the city from virtually any place in Lower Manhattan. I mean, that's not an issue from any place in Lower Manhattan, from the Battery to Canal Street, basically.
But it does separate them from headquarters.
No, I understand, but what I don't understand is why, if this is the Manhattan Tort Division, why they shouldn't all be in one location. Isn't that... I mean, let me ask the question a different way.
We actually would. If we could get additional space at Church Street, which is a fully stacked building, we would have taken that in a heartbeat. We would prefer that. The
I know,
managers
but-
would prefer that.
But there are lots of places in Lower Manhattan for 45, 50,000 square feet that could consolidate both at least 52 Duane Street and what you're proposing for 233 Broadway, presumably at a
Not within
significantly
proximity to
lower
the
rate.
court. They're all further away than 100 Church Street.
Did you
They're
look for
either
this
more
space,
south-
or did DCAS just find you the space?
DCAS finds the space. We do the program and the needs survey. That goes out to their real estate agents, and the real estate agents then look for space. So we did look at space down the street here on Broadway at $70 a square foot. A building would have had to been gutted completely, which did not seem reasonable to us at all, but it would have been closer to the court. And then they also looked at a few other spaces, but frankly, the Woolworth building seemed to fit the need. It kept us close to each other and allows the management to work better. But there is no space closer to the court. We would have taken space, if somebody could have said, we got 50,000 square feet over here, we would have loved to do that.
When you drew a circle around the court, how close did you have to be?
Well, that depends which division you talk to. If you talk to our
this is the
family
tort
court
division.
division and the tort people, the tort management, they think that 52 Duane is as far away as they want to be. They don't want to be further away than that.
No, I can,
Well, it's how they kind of manage their cases, right? They have to be ready to run to court, they get called.
right. But I'll just say, I mean, the city planning department is at 120 Broadway, which is a 8-minute walk, and we are to City Hall, and our staff is at City Hall constantly, and that's not onerous. Mr. Cantor.
To follow the chairman's question regarding locus, what's the definition of proximity? What's the difference between 4 blocks and 7 blocks?
To our attorneys, it is everything. They have to carry files, they have to go in all kinds of weather.
Right.
They don't get cabs, they end up doing walking.
But they're
So
all
they
like-
can be at a court hearing, they can be wrapping up there, they maybe have to get back to the office and get something. So the difference from 4 to 8
What
blocks
is
is a
the
lot for them.
difference between 4 blocks and 8 blocks or 7 blocks? You know, one thing that struck me with your last answer to the chair was, don't tell me what you want, tell me what you need. And I think you're
Absolutely.
telling me what they want.
Well, we put out as one of our requirements is proximity to the court for the court, for our new offices.
But I don't have a clear understanding about what that means.
I'm not certain how to answer that question.
Okay.
Ms. Levin. And
I want
Mr.
to
Cirillo?
shift topics maybe slightly. I think the way this application was presented to us, it was space for 90 new employees.
Yes.
I think, as you've described the numbers, it's not exactly, anyway, is the tort division, the tort division has got to be the fastest growing division in the city if you're adding 90 employees. How many people work in the tort division
Tort
overall?
division-
How much is it going to grow? Do we have to start fixing the sidewalks so we don't get so many slip and fall cases?
The tort division is about 350 people.
This is citywide or just?
Citywide.
Okay, and how many are in the Manhattan?
In Manhattan, there are just under 200 at headquarters. And so
So this is 50% growth? 90 over, in addition to 200?
It's a lot of growth, yes.
Whoa.
Well, there were 1,000 more cases filed between 2014 and 2015. That's a lot of cases. There's an old study pointing to the fact that our tort attorneys are handling too many cases. They have 200 cases per attorney. That's an incredibly high caseload. The needs are presented every year to OMB. We explain what we need, we explain why we need it, we provide background data. OMB, the task force assesses that, and they either believe we've proved our case or we haven't. If we have, then they give us the head count.
Okay, and you've gotten a pretty generous head count, sounds like. I guess, it also begs the question about, with so many new cases being filed, is it that we're just overall more litigious? Are there certain categories of cases? Goes way beyond our responsibility today, but there's a host of really interesting questions here.
Yes, and those are discussed with OMB over and over, and I think just about everybody knows that people sue, and they believe the city can right their wrongs.
Ms. Efron.
One thing I just didn't understand, and I apologize if I am being redundant of something you've answered, but 52 Duane Street, you mentioned that the lease runs out in 2016. Yes. What will happen to those employees?
They're staying. We're renewing the lease. We have a very good relationship with the landlord. We asked DCAS 2 years ago to begin looking at renewing that lease, and so they've been launching into those conversations. But I don't believe that they're going to be displaced. I believe that we'll keep that space.
Okay. Again, it just sounds like a great opportunity with the lease running out in the same year that you're hiring 50 new employees to have looked at the possibility of consolidation, but it sounds as if that's already left the station, so to speak.
And also because when we said renew the lease, we didn't know that these other headcounts were necessarily coming up. We didn't know that the next 57 people were going to be approved. And because for arguing in those courts, being able to walk there within a few minutes is essential for them.
And has the lease been signed?
I don't believe so.
Mr. Cirillo.
Okay, so I'm going to apologize in advance for a question I'm not even sure the relevance of anymore, but I'm just curious now, just to make sure that I'm actually getting all this. And this is a numbers question, just to understand and apply your testimony to my notes. There are approximately 50 to 55 people right now at 52 Duane.
Yes.
I should say original 50 to 55 people at 52 Duane. This application is for 90 new people.
Yes.
Approximately 30 attorneys and 10 support are already hired and are squeezed somewhere into 52 Duane.
No, at 100 Church Street.
Oh, they're at 100.
They're at 100 Church.
They're
yes,
at 100
yes.
Church, awaiting their, I don't want to say final resting place, because that just doesn't seem like an appropriate term, but their temporary final resting.
They're waiting to get some real offices, because they're working at
Got it. And then there's a pipeline of another 57.
Yes.
That will be coming down the pike. That group, that 30 plus 57 plus 10, will be the people who will be housed in this new location.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And you referenced the fact that some staff would be going to the Grand Concourse.
Those are people that we also have squeezed into the space because we hired them 3 years ago.
Okay, got it. So it's not related to this application, but they will move somewhere as well and free up space at 100 Church.
Yes, for the next 57 to get squeezed in there until we get.
Got it. I understand the movement now. Okay, thank you. My follow-up question is this, which is, I guess, pretty simple, and this goes to the dialogue you had with the chair about the potential opportunity that existed for consolidation of the division of Manhattan Tort Division. Your answer to that was if someone had showed us 50,000 square feet, we would have jumped on it, and I could understand that as being a point of view. I guess my question is, since DCAS's work grows out of the need and request in the program that is developed by the agency that is requesting the space, was that part of the program request? Because why would DCAS know to look for 50,000 square feet if they were only asked to look for 30 or approximately 30,000 square feet?
My understanding is that DCAS knows they're doing our lease renewal, right? So they know what our total need is.
Right.
And that was looked at there. But frankly, we didn't find spaces in downtown when the real estate agent showed us anything.
Right, well, I can understand too, if you have a good relationship with the landlord, as you described on Duane Street, that, you know, you don't need to create a problem that doesn't currently exist, but I would guess that any work that would be done on behalf of the agency to find a larger space would have to grow out of the agency's request. I mean, unless, you know, DCAS just thought they could piece this together. And was there any discussion with 52 Duane whether or not they had additional space in the building to expand their existing space, given the fact that that lease discussion is already somewhat underway?
Yes, we absolutely checked with them, and they had, I don't know, 3,000 square feet down in the basement.
Right,
and that's all they could offer.
Okay.
At this point.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions for Mr. Majerus? Let me just say, Mr. Majerus, and to Ms. Lazarson, it is our responsibility to ask these questions, particularly from a land use and operational perspective. That said, I do want to just make it clear, at least speaking for me, that it is certainly not my view that we don't want to see the law department operating in good quality space. I certainly am old enough to remember when the law department was in horrible space many, many decades ago, and the quality and professionalism of the law department improved dramatically when it moved into good space at 100 Church Street. And just generally, as a department here that is well acquainted with living in miserable space and the advantages of living in good space, I think I truly want to see the law department and every city agency being able to operate in quality space. I think the issue for us is whether the absence of taking this opportunity to consolidate in Lower Manhattan, to have a division that operates efficiently in one place with all the entire division being able to work together, and perhaps having a slightly wider circle of geography to look at, because I think many city agencies do operate in a broader circle in Lower Manhattan, even though all of them have operational needs to get to City Hall or get to the courts or get to other agencies, and do, because Lower Manhattan is not that big a place and not that long a walk from one part to another. Is, I think, really the question for us. And I will say that we applaud the law department's move to 1775 Grand Concourse, because we will, our Bronx office will be your neighbor there. But I think, I hope you and DCAS appreciate the questions that we've had.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter? Hearing none, this hearing is closed.
Borough of Queens, calendar number 20, CDs 10, 12, and 13, C160097 PPQ, a public hearing in the matter of an application for the disposition of a lease concerning TWA Flight Center Hotel.
First speaker is Hardy Adasco from EDC.
Good morning, members of the commission. My name is Hardy Adasco. I'm Senior Vice President at the Economic Development Corporation. And I have before you moderately unique application to cover a contingency in the far distant future. It's, I believe, the third time I've brought one of these before you near the expiration of the last Port Authority lease in order to induce American Airlines to spend $1 billion. They wanted assurances that they could last past the lease. So we have before you the TWA Flight Center Hotel, a wonderful project that will restore the iconic Saarinen building. But in order to induce that development, it's necessary to assure that no matter what happens with post the 2050 expiration of the Port Authority lease, that the operators would be allowed to stay. And so we have a ULURP that in the event that the city has not entered into a lease with the Port Authority or somebody else that has a continuation clause of other leases that would allow the city to directly lease, if the city became the operator of the airport, directly lease this building for the continued operation of the hotel for the balance of the 75 years that they've negotiated with the Port Authority and further as part of our negotiations. So it's a potential lease that would become effective in 2050 if there's not another arrangement. This has been reviewed by 3 community boards, the borough board, the borough president. All of them have approved it unanimously. Actually, there were 2 abstentions at one of the community boards from people who wanted to work on the project, and they appropriately abstained. It's, as I say, it's a wonderful project. After me, Tyler Morse from the developer, representative of the architect Buyer Blinder Bell, the historic preservation consultant, and the Port Authority are available to explain the project in greater detail and probably better answer some of the questions that you may have in your mind. But I'm available to answer any questions. We hope that you approve this.
Thank you, Mr. Adasco. Questions for Mr. Adasco? Mr. Knuckles.
Just topically, Hardy, is the juxtaposition of these longer-term leases by the PA versus the proposed lease, is that unique to the Port Authority properties? Are there any other city-owned properties or city parcels that have that?
I can't think of another one, but it is an issue that comes up in many, many situations in the private market and the public market. When somebody wants to reinvest in a space and the lease available to them, sublease available to them is not long enough, that they would try to negotiate something with the landlord to allow them to get the benefit of their investment. This is, as will be described, bringing in the 1961 building, although it looks very attractive from the outside, and a lot has been spent by the Port Authority, still has 1961 mechanicals, 1961 electronics, 1961 asbestos, 1961 glass windows, 1961 gaskets that hold the windows in place.
Hardy? It's Richard. As someone who was born in 1961, 1961 was a good year.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much. I was thinking the same thing.
There's a very substantial investment to bring it up to
You too could be a landmark. So.
Perhaps Commissioner Eady's in need of rehab as well.
All of us.
I guess my question was answered. I don't know.
Any other questions for Mr. Adasco?
Hardy, I'm so young, I don't remember TWB's business.
Thank you, Mr. Adasco. How long is your walk from your office? Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Adasco? Okay. Next speaker is Tyler Morse from MCR Development.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you very much for the time today.
I am thrilled to be here and thrilled to be bringing one of the most important buildings in America back to life and turning it into one of the greatest hotels in the Western Hemisphere. This is going to be a 505-room hotel with 43,000 square feet of meeting space. It's going to be the largest conference and event space in all of Queens and Brooklyn and Long Island attached to a hotel. We're going to have the ability to have a 1,500-person conference and event, which is a sorely needed amenity at the airport. We're going to have 8 restaurants, 4 bars. We're going to have a museum component to the project where we're going to focus on the history of TWA, the coming of the jet age, which came of age in New York City. JFK, and it was called New York International Airport, was the largest airport on the planet when it was built and came out in 1947. JFK is the reason why they call them the New York Jets. This building opened the same year that the Jets played their first game. And this is, the coming of the jet age. We're also going to focus on mid-century modern as a design movement in the 60s. And so it's actually 1962, not 1961. So you got one more year before you can be landmark. But this building was commissioned by Howard Hughes. He owned TWA, and it was designed by a very famous architect, Eero Saarinen, who did the St. Louis Arch, BlackRock on 6th Avenue, the CBS headquarters, Dulles Airport, the U.S. Embassy in Grosvenor Square in London, prolific mid-century modern architect. Space in the building was designed by Raymond Loewy, the famous industrial designer, Warren Plattner, who did Windows on the World. He did some spaces in this building. Charles Eames did a lot of the built-in furniture. It's really a spectacular building. It is 175,000 square foot lobby. So it's going to be the largest hotel lobby in the world, which I think is very appropriate for New York City. But this is going to be a fantastic hotel, much more than just an airport hotel. We're going to have fabulous restaurants in the building, wonderful attractions for the kids. We're going to have an observation deck so you can watch the planes take off and land. It's great for airplane aficionados, architecture aficionados. Just to give you an example, we hosted an open house with Open House New York in October, and almost 10,000 people came by just to check out the building. People flew in from Chicago and Atlanta just to see the inside of the space. But then, as Hardy mentioned, the building is filled with asbestos, lead paint, bad windows. Hopefully, the Commissioner Mistretti has not been sprayed with a non-breathable coating in 1996, which creates roof problems and moisture intrusion issues in the building.
Thank you very much, Ms. Morris. Questions? Ms. Efron.
Thank you. It sounds very exciting. How many jobs do you anticipate being created through this?
3,700 jobs will be created, about 500 or 600 permanent jobs in the building, 700 indirect jobs, and then 2,000 construction jobs. It's a union-built, union-operated project. We have an arrangement with the Hotel Trades Council and Peter Ward, and a deal with Gary LaBarbera of the Building Trades Council. So it's an all-union operation. And it's also, I should mention, going to be LEED certified, probably gold, but certainly silver.
Ms. Ortiz.
It looks like a fantastic project, and I've been there twice in the past 2 weeks at JetBlue right behind there, so I'm familiar with it. But one question, you mentioned much more than an airport hotel. Out of curiosity, to what extent do you project demand from, those who are flying in versus a local demand that's generated from, conference needs for, Queens and Brooklyn and New York in general? How does that work at an airport hotel, given that I anticipate this is larger than, many airport hotels, and you'll need to make up the difference somehow?
So we are importantly landside. We're not airside. So we are outside of security. We are on the air train. There's an air train station right outside of our building. So very easy public transportation access to the building. It's a 2-stop ride to Manhattan. And there's very extensive bus service, mostly for airport employees. But, local folks from Queens and Brooklyn will be able to get there via the MTA bus. And the station is right outside of our building there. So we think we'll attract a lot of community events, a lot of religious events, weddings and bar mitzvahs from the local community. And we've designed the space around those needs. We'll do corporate events. We would anticipate Monday to Thursday, and then more community events on Friday, Saturday, Sunday from the local community. And the other thing I should mention is the Port Authority has 3,700 parking spaces adjacent to the building that are already there. So we don't have to build any new parking lots for the facility.
And what's the utilization rate at that lot? Can it accommodate what you're anticipating?
The utilization lot of the yellow garage, which is adjacent to us, is 59%
Oh, okay.
today. So there is capacity. It only sells out 3 days of the year over the President's Day holiday. That's when everybody drives to the airport. Who knew?
Thank you.
Any other questions to Mr. Morse? Ms. Levin?
Well, first, I just wanted to thank you for bringing some poetry back to our work this morning. Really inspiring listening to the description. You described the capacity for large meetings and conferences. How are you going to be, is that going to be expanding the New York City capacity for those kinds of businesses? Are you going to be drawing from, we all know that Javits is constrained, Manhattan hotels are constrained for this size space. How do you fit into the conference market in New York City in general?
Right. So the Javits Center, I think, is 2 million square feet of event space, and we're going to have 40,000 square feet of event space. So, in the context of convention centers, it's smaller. But the bread and butter of an airport hotel's event business is the 20-person meeting. 5 people fly in from London, 5 people fly in from Frankfurt, 5 fly in from Chicago, and 5 drive in from New York, and you meet, and then everybody flies out, and they don't clog the Van Wyck. Right? Throughout this project, I've talked to a lot of people not from New York, and they say to me that Van Wyck has been under construction for 35 years, right? And odds are it'll be under construction for another 35 years. The world knows about the Van Wyck. But they come to New York because they want to be in New York. They need to come to New York for meetings, conferences, events. So we think our average length of stay will still be akin to other airport hotels at about 1.1 days. The average length of stay in the city is 2.5 days. So it's still an airport hotel. People are not going to vacation. They're not going to say, well, should I take a vacation in the Caribbean or should I go to JFK? Right? But they're going to do a lot of day-and-a-half meetings. We have demand already and are starting our booking calendar for 200-person management retreats for multinational companies.
Are those kinds of meetings happening in New York City now, or are you creating a new market?
Creating a new market for that. Because right now, New York City is super expensive to host those meetings versus Orlando, Vegas, South Florida. They have lower room rates, easier air service, and that kind of thing. Once you put people in the city in Midtown at $450 a night, plus car fare, plus $100 a head for dinners and that kind of thing, it gets pretty pricey. So we're going to be able to provide a product offering that is a lot less expensive than going into Midtown, but still has that air access, that JFK provides naturally.
Okay, what kind of room rates are you planning?
About $250.
Wow. Who knows? Some of us may have to vacation there.
Certainly less expensive than the Caribbean.
I'm taking reservations. I'll give you my card later.
I don't want to be conflicted. Only after we vote. All right.
Any other questions for Mr. Morse? Mr. Cantor?
I remember the job being built,
Yeah?
and it was a fantastic job. But my question is It's landmarked inside and out, correct?
Pieces of the inside, the entire exterior.
The entire exterior. And it's been signed off by landmarks?
Technically, we have met with landmarks. We've met with Meenakshi and the entire commission as a courtesy, but the Port Authority sits out of the jurisdiction of LPC. So we are actually going through a Section 106 process with the federal government through the Secretary of the Interior and the National Park Service, which is kind of an equivalent process from a federal standpoint. There is a preservationist committee that has been set up called the Redevelopment Advisory Committee, the RAC. The signatory agencies are the State Office of Historical Preservation for New York State, the FAA, the American Council on Historic Properties, which is the federal LPC, and the Port Authority, of course, Port Authority.
There's no infrastructure really required, is there? What's that?
Infrastructure in the building?
No, in the surrounding area to get.
No.
In other words, the roads are okay, the garages obviously are okay.
Correct. 140,000 people fly out of Kennedy every single day. We're just going to house 500 of them.
Okay. Thank you.
So technically, this is not a city landmark?
It is technically a New York City landmark. It is a.
Even though it's outside their I don't know, how does that work, that it's outside their jurisdiction?
It's a federal landmark, a state landmark, and a New York City landmark.
Right.
Stephen can probably, or Ward can tell you how that works.
Okay. More to come, okay.
More to come. More to come. And
Any
we're
other
bringing it
question?
back to exactly how it was in 1962. It's a total restoration and rehabilitation of the building. So, down to the uniforms and, the big glasses and everything like that.
And do you have an opening date, or when you anticipate?
Summer of 2018.
Thank you.
We hope to be under construction in 90 to 120 days, right after we finish with the unit process. We already have bid packages out on the street, and then it'll be a 2-year construction project. It's really 2 construction projects. One is a rehabilitation of the old building, and the other project that goes on concurrent with that is the building of the hotel wings.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Morse? Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Next speaker from the Port Authority, Don Free.
Hello. My name is Don Free. I'm the Program Director with the Port Authority Aviation Department. For the last few years, I've been part of the team working to return the TWA to productive use and have the building re-enter the public realm. The building is just beautiful, but for much of its time as an airline terminal is woefully undersized for the size aircraft and number of people that flow through its corridors. In the 1990s, the building was run by an airline in or on the verge of bankruptcy, with maintenance funds scarce and terminal components such as ticket counters and bag belts built with the least expensive manner, and at times meant flying through iconic window walls. The Port Authority invested $20 million to restore and refurbish the public portions of the historic building to allow developers a glimpse of the building's potential. However, the amount invested by the Port Authority is just a portion of what needs to be spent to restore the building completely. 3 RFPs were issued for the Flight Center redevelopment. We were fortunate to garner the interest of talented hotel developers whose facilities have been at the forefront of hospitality concepts. We entered into term sheet discussions and lease discussions with a number of developers. However, for those having to make it work economically, it has its challenges. Tyler mentioned the largest hotel lobby in the world. It's also a site that's squeezed between terminal roadways with mandated historic view sheds severely limiting building areas for the new structures that are essential for its economic viability. There's a negotiation with the Port Authority for the lease, the city for the lease term extension, and the ULURP, the FEA for the EA, and the federally mandated Redevelopment Advisory Committee, which is the historic approval. So there's a significant challenges just with the approvals. While all the other hotel developers expressed excitement of having the iconic building in their portfolio, none were as thoroughly vested in thoroughly exploring what is required to restore the historic TWA Flight Center as MCR. From the first day, we have had the complete backing and interest of the CEO and his team that has continued through the RFP process, lease negotiation, and now ULURP and EA. In addition to allocating $65 million to restore the Flight Center, the company has scoured the country for TWA memorabilia to recreate that period in which the terminal operated. And that means items as diverse as TWA pins that MCR staff attach to anybody standing too close, a TWA sign from a discarded jet bridge in St. Louis, to the purchase of a TWA Connie aircraft to be relocated from Maine to the site. MCR spent more time than any other firm was interested or willing to scrutinize every portion of the historic building to determine the most complete and thorough means of restoring the building to a period of significance, while also making it work financially. The Port Authority selected MCR in a competitive process about 1.5 years ago, and since that time has become even more convinced that MCR is the very best team for returning this historic structure to the public. We are thrilled to recommend MCR for restoration.
Thank you, Mr. Free. Questions? Very comprehensive. Thank you very much. Next speaker is Ward Dennis.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ward Dennis. I'm a partner with Higgins Quaysbarth. We're the historic preservation consultants for MCR on this project. As you've heard already, the terminal itself opened in 1962. There were alterations that were done between 1967 and 70 that added on to the back of the terminal. Part of this proposal will remove those later additions and return it to its original 1962 footprint, when it really was a soaring metaphor for the jet age. I guess I'm the young guy here because I was born in '63 and remember taking my, or don't remember, but did take my first overseas flight in '64 from this terminal. And I think we all have memories of that period of JFK Idlewild when they were going through the major expansion for the new jet age. TWA is really the last piece surviving of that. It is a New York City landmark. Portions of it are designated on the interior. It is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. In around 2000, 2001, when the planning for the JetBlue terminal started, the FAA, as a lead agency, entered into Section 106 review with the New York State Historic Preservation Office, subsequently the Advisory Council for Historic Preservation, and the Port Authority became signatories to this memorandum of agreement that was signed in 2004 and established the Redevelopment Advisory Committee. That committee over the last 12 years has met 30+ times, not all about this, about every aspect of JetBlue, about the restoration of the interior that's been ongoing by the Port Authority, and about the various RFP plans that Mr. Free mentioned. At this point, through the consultation with SHPO and the Advisory Council, they have signed off on the project, and we will continue to consult with them through the construction process as plans continue to get developed. And we will continue to consult with the Redevelopment Advisory Committee, which consists of 10 other groups that, like I said, have met over 30 times at this point, and I gather we're meeting again this week. So consultation on the preservation and redevelopment of the site continues, is ongoing. As Tyler mentioned, we have met with staff at the Landmarks Commission and have consulted with them throughout the process, and I'm sure we will continue to do so as this goes forward.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. Let me just, maybe the best person to ask, out of just my own edification, even though it's a city landmark, it doesn't actually have to be reviewed and approved by landmarks?
It doesn't go through the normal public review process because the Port Authority is a supra-city agency.
Even though it has been designated as a landmark by the city?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
In a similar way, city-owned properties go through a slightly different review process with landmarks as well.
Mr. Cantor.
Thank you. You've mentioned the mitigation efforts of asbestos, lead, et cetera, which will be done. Are you, through the Port Authority, I assume the Port Authority is the, quote, building department for this project?
Yes.
And are the requirements to upgrade the structure to today's requirements, or will they allow the structure to remain under the previous codes?
I think the architect is here, so I think he can best answer those.
Okay.
But the Port Authority does review the project as, in effect, the Department of Buildings using the New York City rules and regulations.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Dennis? Ms. Deluz.
Hi, thanks for being here. It's great to hear all the enthusiasm in your voices. I'm just wondering, on the Redevelopment Advisory Committee, what will their role be moving forward? And when does their role or responsibility end?
The memorandum of agreement defines certain milestones in the development process as construction drawings are developed. So I believe that they will continue to meet until the project is complete. There are milestones for the entire RAC to review the project upon its completion. And then I think that will actually terminate it. It's a little, it is a very ongoing thing, and it has been. So, and as it should be, I think, for a building of this importance and stature.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Dennis.
All right, thank you.
Richard Southwick from Buyer Belinda Bell.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Richard Southwick, Director of Historic Preservation at Buyer Belinda Bell. And I've actually been working on this project since 1994, in one manner or another. That was the year that New York City Landmarks designated the building, and we were hired by the Port Authority to consult on all things historic. And just want to refer to the Port Authority's role with historic buildings. For example, we did the big restoration of the Marine Air Terminal at LaGuardia Airport some years ago. We went through the entire landmarks process as an advisory to the Port Authority. They're a very good steward on that building and have been very supportive over the last 20 years on keeping this building standing and ready for this new restoration. When I started in '94, we looked at the impact of the air train. We looked at the JetBlue development behind it, and that actually precipitated a Section 106 review with the State Historic Preservation Office. And out of that, in addition to being listed on the National Register of Historic Places, we were able to, with Port Authority funding, do the Phase 1 restoration. Phase 1 included the public areas inside the building. It was a very large asbestos mitigation of the underside of the roof, and we replaced about a third of the windows in the building, but that was really only the beginning. The photographs you see in this first board really show the continuing existing conditions, which are at the building right now. Only about a third of the windows have been restored. You can see in the upper right what some of the 50-plus-year-old gaskets look like. Glass is still sliding and breaking. The concrete shell over the main part of the building was coated about 10 or 15 years ago, and it's done considerable damage. And that was never part of the Port Authority restoration. It was never affordable at that point. So, in a way, this project is really a white knight coming in to complete the restoration. About a third of the interiors are also done, and we've set the stage and the quality level for the developer to come on board and finish this. So we're really fortunate to have been selected to work on the, as the architect of the entire project, as well as the restoration of the original flight center. and I'd like to entertain any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Questions? Mr. Knuckles?
I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyway. So aside from the terminal, which is obvious in its landmark quality, the towers, the hotel buildings that will stand next to or adjacent to will also have to meet appropriate aesthetic standards, pay homage to the terminal in some way?
We like not to call those towers. They're 6-story plus a basement mid-rise buildings.
Okay.
And
those aren't towers, you're right.
and the design of them, as you see in the second board, it's been very sensitively positioned to really be a backdrop. It really is the stage set. I used to call TWA the lawn ornament in front of JetBlue. JetBlue has a very kind of variegated look, and what this really does is help screen many parts of the walkway for the air train and JetBlue, and really provides a much more benign and I think fitting setting, which really allows the building to stand off.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Cantor?
Are you able to respond to my earlier question regarding the upgrading of the existing building?
Yes, we have the QAD, which is Quality Assurance, which is the Port Authority Building Department, if you will, is required to follow New York City Building Code requirements. The building will be filed under 2 different codes. The New York City New Code, i.e. 1968 for the flight center and the tubes, and the rest of it will be the new 2014 IPC-based code. Structurally, we are not able to bring the flight center up to new seismic requirements. However, for expansion and other types of things, we put new skylights in. The main part of the work we did for the Port Authority is to stabilize the building, make the building watertight. With that were some of the windows and skylights. We had to determine coefficients of expansion. We had to correct some of the chronic problems that the buildings experienced since the 1960s. So the answer is where practical and possible, we are bringing it up to date.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Next speaker is Michelle Sulahian. Is that how I pronounce? I'm sorry?
Good afternoon, Commission. I'm Michelle Sulahian with the Real Estate Board of New York. The Real Estate Board of New York is a broadly based trade association with 17,000 owners, developers, brokers, managers, and real estate professionals active throughout New York City. We support the TWA Flight Center Hotel at JFK Airport. This project will preserve the iconic TWA terminal designed by the noted architect Eero Saarinen, which opened in 1962. It will rehabilitate the national landmark and include an innovative museum focusing on New York as the birthplace of the jet age, on the storied history of TWA, and on the mid-century modern design movement. The project will ensure the center remains an architectural treasure that honors our aviation history and will help modernize the transit hub with important upgrades necessary for growth and economic success. In addition, it will deliver a world-class hotel to New York that is LEED certified. The new TWA Flight Center Hotel will continue to help New York City grow and thrive as an important global hub of commerce and tourism, will add to the growing supply of hotel rooms, and will demonstrate that the market can provide for full-service hotels where there is a clear need for such facilities. The redevelopment plan will be part of a public-private partnership between MCR Development, JetBlue, and the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. It will be union-built and operated, delivering more than 3,700 construction and permanent jobs. MCR Development's project is setting a leading example for how New York can balance economic growth with preservation-sensitive development. We offer our full support for this ULURP application for the many benefits it brings to the airport, the city's historic property, and to the construction and permanent jobs this investment will create.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you very much. Next speaker is Juana Velez, the Hotel Trades Council. Good morning, good afternoon now. Welcome, Ms. Velez.
My name is Juana Velez, and I'm a union member for 20 years. And I'm here representing the New York Trades Council, the union that represents hospitality and workers in New York City for over 75 years. Our union has been fighting hard to ensure the hotel workers in New York City are paid good wages and benefits, and that they are treated with respect and dignity at work. I'm happy to be here today and to be speaking in strong support to TWA Flight Center Hotel at JFK Airport. The plan called for new hotel with 505 guest rooms will include 40,000 square feet of conference, event, and meeting space, and will also include potentially over half a dozen food and beverage outlets. This project will also help complement the character of iconic TWA terminal and will preserve this important landmark for the future generation. Importantly, by making sure this hotel will be built and operate union and include all stakeholders in the process. The TWA Flight Center development is a great example of how new hotel development should be carried out in our city. It shows what a benefit it can be to the community when it's done right. It will provide thousands of good jobs, middle class in Queens. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here, and I strongly encourage to please approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Velez. Wait 1 second, just to see if anyone has a question for you. Now you can go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm very happy.
Thank you. Next speaker is Tom Gretsch from the Queens Chamber of Commerce. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
I'm Greg Rose.
Well, then I'm definitely not pronouncing it correctly.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Gregory Rose from the Queens Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to be reading my boss's, Executive Director Thomas Gretsch's testimony here today. Thank you, Chairman Weisbrod and the members of the Commission. I am Thomas Gretsch, Executive Director of the Queens Chamber of Commerce. For over 100 years, the Queens Chamber of Commerce has advocated to ensure the borough's economy remains vibrant, where entrepreneurs can succeed and communities remain strong. After hearing the plans for MCR development, we believe the revitalization of the TWA Flight Center Hotel will create jobs and help businesses in Queens and the rest of the city. Today, JFK Airport generates $37.3 billion in economic activity that creates 256,000 jobs. As we look to ensure JFK remains the economic force, bringing in a variety of amenities that can ensure business is conducted in Queens is essential. Unfortunately, since it closed in 2001, the terminal has sat desolate, leaving a large part of this economic hub lagging. MCR Development's proposal will no doubt create a place for business while adding 3,700 construction and permanent jobs. When complete, we are excited to let Queens businesses know that they will have the 40,000 square feet of conference and meeting space to host prospective new clients, a trade show, or a holiday party. What is also commendable about the project is that they are keeping much of the history intact. This national landmark will have a museum that focuses on New York as the mid-century modern design that the terminal embraced. Also, the rehabilitation will keep much of the original look and feel for when it was first opened in 1962. This project has also much support as expressed from being passed through the respective community boards. It is great to see some of Queens' major partners work together on this project. For decades, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey has helped to ensure both JFK and LaGuardia airports have all the necessary infrastructure to keep them operating. And since the company's beginning, JetBlue has called Queens home, and their support for this project shows the commitment to our borough. We are also confident MCR Development will be able to successfully manage this operation. Its extensive experience already managing 89 hotels in 23 states, they have the experience necessary to make sure this hotel accommodates all of Queens' businesses' needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Thank you, Mr. Rose. Next speaker is Maria Buckmeyer from Non-Traditional Employment for Women.
Good day, Commissioners. Non-Traditional Employment for Women, NEW, supports the ULURP application for the TWA Flight Center Hotel by MCR Development. There are a limited number of opportunities for low-income and minority women to obtain secure jobs that provide a living wage. and essential benefits, such as health insurance. New students, particularly minorities, women, the population that News chiefly serves, often faces these great challenges. Careers in the unionized construction trade provides opportunities for minority, low-income women in secure jobs that are at a living wage and include benefits. After participating in news programs, After participating in news programs, the improvement in wages and standard of living is drastic. The average wage for new permanent placement is $17 per hour. These wages go up to around $40 per hour after a 4 to 5 years apprenticeship program. News programs and direct entry opportunity into the union apprenticeship programs allow low-income women in New York City to provide a secure future for themselves and their families. Founded in 1978, New prepares, trains, and places women in careers in the skilled construction, utility, and maintenance trades, helping women achieve economic independence and secure futures. In that work, we have the opportunity to work directly with the New York City Building and Construction Trades apprenticeship programs. The revitalization of TWA's Flight Center will provide an opportunity for women from across New York City. The TWA Flight Center Hotel at JFK Airport will be a union-built and operated. An agreement is in place with the Building and Construction Trades Council, a long-standing partner with New, and the project will deliver more than 3,700 construction and permanent jobs. New is proud to support the revitalization of the TWA Flight Center and to support MCR Development, JetBlue, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Turner Construction in this effort. The project will provide opportunities for economic security for women and their families.
Thank you, Ms. Buckmeyer. Questions, comments? Thank you.
Have a great day.
Oh, whoops. Ms. Buckmeyer, not so fast. Mr. Knuckles.
Ms. Buckmeyer, thank you for your testimony, first of all. Is there a specific agreement in place between non-traditional employment for women and the Building Trades Council for apprenticeship positions?
New has direct relationship with a lot of the trade unions, and we have women that get direct entry into the program, so yes, there is.
Okay. You wouldn't know how many apprenticeship positions there are?
I would not know that information off the top of my head, but they actively recruit women, and plus most contracts tend to require a certain number of minorities and women on the jobs, and that they definitely come to New to support them.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Ms. Buckmeyer? Thank you very much.
Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Next speaker is Claire Holmes from Global Gateway Alliance.
Hi there, I'm Claire Holmes, thank you. On behalf of the Global Gateway Alliance, a regional airport advocacy group, I'm pleased to offer our full support to MCR Development's plan to open a hotel at the TWA Flight Center at JFK, a project that will benefit local communities in the long term. The plan for the hotel will not only bring a much-needed amenity to the airport, but it will also reopen the iconic building to the public, and the careful design will ensure that the building's long-standing history is preserved. Last, rehabilitating the old terminal into a functioning facility will strengthen the regional economy, help revitalize the airport, and bring strong union jobs to the area. Leaving this iconic structure dormant does not benefit anyone, and the plans set forth by MCR offer an excellent opportunity to reimagine the space. As such, we urge the City Planning Commission to offer its full support to MCR's application as it moves through the ULURP process.
Thank you, Ms. Holmes. Ms. Holmes, what is the Gateway Alliance?
The Global Gateway Alliance, yeah.
What does it advocate for?
We advocate for increased investment to the city's airports, so LaGuardia, JFK, and Newark, with the hope of strengthening the regional economy, bringing more jobs to the area, and increasing transportation. We have a board also that consists of civic, academic, business leaders.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms. Holmes? Thank you very much. Next speaker is Miguel Acevedo.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I definitely don't live within walking distance to the DWA Center. But I do live within walking distance of the Highline Hotel, which is located in the historic district of Chelsea. I reside at Fulton Houses. I am also the Tenant Association president there. So we have over 1,000 residents. Half of them are children, the other half are middle-aged and senior citizens. The Highline Hotel has redeveloped from what it used to be the Desmond Tutu Center, which was a dark and dreary hotel, which not too many people wanted to visit or even go as a guest. Since the Highline Hotel opened up, it has opened up a public space for the community to also participate in the hotel, not as guests, but it's open for us as community members to visit this area, and the Highline Hotel has made that open to us. It has also supported the Fulton Houses residents, especially our children, in an annual toy draft that is given to the kids every Christmas in Fulton Houses. It has also had a tree lighting event, which we are invited personally by Mr. Morse to bring the children to participate in that tree light event. It also has an Easter egg hunt and so on. It continues to support my Family Day event financially, sponsoring the ride. So the community in Queens should, with open arms, accept this center. As it shows, Mr. Morse has opened his pockets to help my residents at Fulton Houses, and I wholeheartedly support this project in Queens.
Thank you, Mr. Acevedo. Just to be clear, MCR operates the Highline Hotel?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Questions? Ms. Deleuze?
Mr. Acevedo, I appreciate you being here, and I'm sure that you and your residents would love a tour once this thing opens, right?
Definitely, especially the children, so they can see the planes fly.
Any other questions to Mr. Acevedo? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Lenny Cago. Am I pronouncing? Cago. Cago. As you can see, a former TWA employee.
Right. Very proud of him, too. I'm here representing my fellow employee owners of TWA. We became owners because we were corporate rated by a man, and he downsized us. I wish I knew Tyler more in the late 90s, because he would have been the owner of Trans World Airlines, and I believe that. I never seen someone that I just met for the 4th time today so heartfully. The whole thing is body. Once you get in the airline business, it's like nothing you could have believed. It's a whole family. So I represent the employees. Now, why I do that is because I'm probably the youngest one, besides my friend Greg. My father took me to that terminal in 1974. I left October 6th in 2001. So as you can see, I had a long career. It's been closed a long time, and we went to see Tyler there, and like he said, there were 10,000 people just to come to see it. Well, that's been my home for, if I got the math right, 42 years. It still is my home. And I told Tyler, if I make it, I'm just going to wear my uniform and go to work. He doesn't have to pay me nothing because it's in your heart. And all my friends are all behind this. Some of my friends are 95 years old. They flew Connies and pilots, and I married a flight attendant. We're all in the airline business. This is a plaque we had made for Tyler. I'll read it slow because I'm a little nervous.
You're doing fine. So.
It says, Mr. Tyler Morse, the former TWA employees pass on our beloved home, Terminal 5, to you. Thanks for keeping our memories and stories alive. May she bring more memories to the travelers and employees who once again bring her to life. In appreciation to dedicated TWA employee owners. And we present them with this beautiful plaque. It's all in his heart, and all my friends, we're all behind this. I just can't wait for us to open it. Any questions?
No?
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cago.
Thank you.
There you go. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter? Hearing none, and before I close the hearing, let me just say to the entire applicant team, thank you for this closing part of our hearing. I think for speaking for all of us, it was extremely uplifting, and we really do look forward to the reopening of this extraordinary facility. So with that, I will close this hearing and ask you, Madam Secretary, if there's anything else to be brought before us today.
No, Chairman Weisbrod.
I will definitely entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.